Hey everyone, welcome to another fragrance video. Today I'm going to be doing my top 5 rose fragrances to consider. This is going to be a part 2. So I did a part 1 of my favourite top 5 rose fragrances to consider in the year 2015, and since then I've been testing a lot more fragrances, and these are the 5 that I would recommend someone to consider surrounding the note of rose. So I'm going to list all the rose fragrances in my description below, and I'm going to have a link to my review of each of these fragrances as well. So in this video I'm just going to do a quick overview of each scent, but if you're looking for more in-depth review of any of these fragrances, then you can just check the description below for an in-depth review from myself. These fragrances aren't in any particular order, but just 5 which I've tested and sampled and reviewed and would recommend someone to consider if they are looking for a scent around the note of rose. So starting off at number 5 is a fragrance from the house of Aramis, and this one is Perfume Calligraphy Rose. So this one, it opens up with a really strong, sweet, milky rose opening, and the rose for me has a very gourmand and edible quality. It's intensely sweet, and I find the opening to be really strong and powerful and a little bit too much for me. It's really centered and around the note of rose, which, like I've said, is super sweet, super gourmand, and it becomes a bit too much. However, as the fragrance develops into the heart, it becomes a lot more balanced with the addition of a fresh herb-like spice from the oregano, and the fragrance continues becoming a lot more balanced into the dry down, where it's introduced to the resins which are now awakened, such as the myrrh and the olibanum, which help to give like a resinous, smoky quality to the composition. This is one of the most unique, multifaceted and complex rose fragrances I have tested so far. The rose, the fresh herb like spice from the oregano, the smoky olibanum, and the resinous quality from the myrrh all work well together, all balance out each other to create a really beautiful multifaceted rose based scent. In terms of performance, Perfume Calligraphy Rose is a beastly fragrance. I get 16 plus hours of of longevity. It just keeps going on and on and on. Projection is beast mode, really strong scent cloud. I was receiving a lot of notices and a lot of compliments as well, so this one really fills up a room. In terms of seasons, due to its strong performance and the nature of this scent profile, I think it's suited to fall and winter. I would use it during the evening as a night out and a formal scent. So that's at number 5, Perfume Calligraphy Rose from the house of Aramis. So at number 4 is a fragrance from Armani, and this fragrance is called Rose de Arabi. So this is from their niche collection, the exclusives line. So Rose de Arabi overall is a very dark, jammy rose scent, really sweet, really syrupy. It opens up with with rose and a blast of patchouli, which adds like an earthy tone. The rose in the opening has a bright, slightly cleaner quality. As the fragrance develops, it then has a smokiness into the heart and a woodiness coming from the note of the oud. Now the oud really adds a smoky, woody quality. However, the oud is very much the backing player in this fragrance. The rose is at the forefront. The oud just adds a backing bone to the whole entire composition of this scent. As the fragrance dries down into the dry down, it's then introduced to the vanilla, which works really well with the rose and blends so well, and the vanilla adds a creaminess and a velvety sort of feel, and the scent becomes a lot more creamier and smoother and sweeter. So it really transforms the rose. In the opening of the scent, it's quite bright and quite clean and quite wet, but as the fragrance dries down, it becomes more darker, juicier, creamier, and more velvetier. In terms of performance, this one is beastly again. Longevity is insane on this fragrance. I applied it for a night out with friends to go out for a meal, which was in an evening about 7 p.m. and then the next day I went for a shower at 11 a.m. and I could still smell it in the shower. So the longevity on this fragrance is insane. In terms of projection, it's very strong for the first 5 to 6 hours in terms of projection, so it's beastly for the 5 to 6 hour mark. Until the 8-hour mark, it's in the moderate range, so a really good scent bubble. But after the 8-hour mark, it becomes a little bit more close to the skin as a skin scent, but I'm not complaining. I think the performance on this is absolutely brilliant. This one is perfect for winter and the fall, and to be used as an evening scent, again as a formal or as a night out scent. So at number 4 is Rose Arabi from the house of Armani. At number 3 is a fragrance from the house of Andy Tower, so an independent perfume, and this one is Fille en Rose de Kandahar. So Andy Tower created this fragrance to around the note of rose from a region in Afghanistan. The region itself, Nahangagar or something along those lines. It's completely gone from my head. But he was inspired to create this fragrance around a rose which you can pick up in a certain region of Afghanistan. So Fille en Rose de Kandahar, how does it smell? This one is a rose scent which I wasn't particularly fond of massively, and I mentioned that in my review as well, but I would recommend this for someone else to check out and to sample, only because it was quite a unique rose scent. This is for me quite a linear fragrance. What you get in the opening few stages is what pretty much you get for the entirety of the scent. It's a very creamy, sweet rose scent with a touch of fruitiness and a little bit of dry spiciness. So the notes that you're going to get in this are rose, almond, which adds a lot of creamy milkiness to the scent. It's going to have the fruitiness due to the note of the apricot, and the tobacco adds like a dry spiciness to the composition. There's also a touch of powderiness to this scent as well. In terms of performance, Fille en Rose de Kandahar is insane again, and brilliant performance, a very strong scent cloud, sometimes a little bit too strong. I got about 16 hours of longevity. Again, it really does not quit on my skin. The projection is very intensely strong for the full 16 hours. Again, in terms of seasons, this is suited to cooler weather for the evening, so I would wear this in the fall and winter. And in terms of occasions, I think this is suited perfectly for formal occasions. So that's at number 3, Fille en Rose de Kandahar from the house of Andy Tower. At number 2 is a fragrance from the house of Labo, and that fragrance is Rose 31. So this is a fresher, cleaner rose. It opens up with a blast of cumin, which adds a lot of bright, clean, fresh herb-like qualities. And at the opening few stages, I really only get this really bright cumin bomb. However, after a few minutes or so, the composition is introduced to the note of the rose. Now, the rose in the opening is super clean, it's super bright, and it has a bit of a soapy quality as well. The opening few stages of Rose 31 from Le Labo is absolutely beautiful in my opinion. Really gorgeous. The clean, bright rose and the cumin work so well together, and I find the rose in Rose 31, the opening few stages, to be such a beautiful, natural smelling scent. As fragrance dries down, it has other elements in the composition which makes it a more balanced and a complete fragrance. It's introduced, the cumin and the rose are still present in the dry down, but it's introduced to a woody base, and that's coming from the notes of the vetiver. Now, the vetiver isn't like the green, fresh vetiver that you get in Tom Ford's grey vetiver, nor is it like the rooty, dark vetiver that you get in Encre Noire. It's a very woodsy vetiver, and the scent is also increased further by woodiness due to the note of cedar wood. Along with the cumin, the rose, and the woody notes from the vetiver and the cedar, the fragrance is completed by a note of the musk. Now, the musk in the dry down of this fragrance works really well with my skin. I felt like it blended perfectly. And again, the musk in this scent isn't like a dark animalic musk. It's more of the white, clean musk. And overall, I find this to be a beautifully well-balanced rose scent, which is inoffensive and really bright. And for me, I find it to be a scent which I would consider my signature fragrance. Like I've said, it's quite a bright, clean rose, and this is quite different to the other fragrances in the list. This one would be perfect for spring as a daytime scent. It's a supremely versatile fragrance as well, so it can work as a date scent, as a work scent, as a casual scent, night out scent, you name it. This is a scent for all occasions, a real Swiss army of a scent. Again, like I've said, it's a perfect scent for springtime, but as I consider it to be a signature fragrance, it could really work for any other season throughout the year. So at number 2 is Rose 31 from the house of Le Labo. And number one of my top 5 rose fragrances to consider is the fragrance from the house of Frederic, and this is Portrait of a Lady. This is not only one of my favourite rose fragrances to consider and of all time, it is also one of my absolute favourite fragrances of all time. I really consider this to be a gem and a masterpiece. It's so well crafted and created. So this is a rose fragrance which doesn't actually start off like a rose fragrance. The first few minutes, like the opening 20 minutes of this fragrance, I get a smokiness, an earthiness and a bitter spiciness. And smokiness is coming from the note of the incense, the earthiness coming from the note of the patchouli, and that bitter spiciness for the first 20 minutes or so is coming from the note of the clove. After the fragrance develops on your skin into the heart, that's when the rose makes an introduction, and the rose is introduced with the note of the raspberry as well, and the raspberry adds this beautiful sweet fruitiness and creaminess to the rose, and it just for me transforms it into one of the most unique rose fragrances I've ever tried. The smoky incense and the clove, the bitter spicy clove, are much more subdued into the heart and into the dry down of the scent. The rose becomes the most prominent aspects. You still get a little bit of that earthy patchouli, but it's really, for me, focused on the note of the rose and the raspberry, which gives it that fruity kick. In terms of performance, Frederic Moore's Portrait of a Lady is insane. Again, boost mode, projection, and longevity insane as well. I get close to 16 hours of longevity, and projection fills up the whole room as well. I've been complimented by people quite a few distance away from me. One of the things I really enjoyed about Portrait of a Lady from Frederic Moore was the way it smelled like this milkshake that my mum makes every Ramadan. It's a rose-based milkshake with ice cream and chia seeds. It's called a faluda in my mother tongue. It's one of my favorite things about Ramadan, and this fragrance reminds me of that time. So I have a special connection with this scent. But even though I feel like this scent is universally loved by fragrance enthusiasts, so that is my reason for having it at number 1. So that was my list of top 5 rose fragrances to consider. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this list. Again, if you ever want to see a more in-depth review of any of these 5 fragrances, my reviews of each of them are in the description below. Guys, please comment below what you thought of the video, or if there are any more rose fragrances for someone else or myself to consider and to sample. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to give me a like, and make sure to subscribe as well, as it does really help out my channel. Until next time, my friends, see you later.